41. Hopefully this is episode 41 with sound, because quite honestly, we have tried to go live probably 5 times in a row, and we've had one technical issue after another. And it's okay, so it does seem that we're live here. Let's see. Oh my gosh.
We have sound.
We have sound. This is episode 41 with. So we do have sound. So it looks like it looks like the show is going to go. It only took us 26 minutes to go live today. So yeah. So well, hey, if this is your first time ever watching this, the format is this, okay? You ask questions, and then I give you as detailed of an answer as I possibly can to help you with your dog. You know, I've encountered so many dog issues and helped so many families over the past decade. I've dealt with anything from dog aggression to dogs that are wanting to do sports like competitive obedience. I've also dealt with dogs that are maybe have separation anxiety, or maybe just even teaching your dog how to stay or something like that. So, hey, there's just so many different experiences that I've had over the 10 years, and I just want to give that back to you guys to help you with your dog. So Mandy does have quite a few questions that she's going to ask me. We're supposed to start this at 8 o'clock, and I really respect Mandy and her daughter's time, who are here together with me. We're probably going to cut it off at about probably about 8:50, 8:55 or so. So I do apologize that we won't be able to run the full show, but you know, it is what it is whenever you have to deal with technical issues. So, well, hey, thanks again for watching. Let's go ahead and get into the first question.
All right, first up is, how do I keep my dog in the fence?
You know, having your dog escape out of your yard is a pretty scary thing. I know it's happened to some friends of mine. Dogs get out of the yard, get out of the fence, and they get killed. And that's just not a good thing. Nobody wants to lose their dog that way. So I'm just going to give you 3 things that I think that could really help you in this circumstance. So thing number 1 that you should do to keep your dog, you know, in your backyard, to keep them from leaving, is make your backyard actually fun place for your dog to be. Now, that does make a lot of sense, right? Like, you put your dog back there, if they're escaping, well, it's not all that good. So what can you put in your yard that's going to be interesting? Well, the number 1 thing you can put in your yard is yourself. Go in your backyard with your dog and play games. I'll tell you, every morning when I wake up, I go into my backyard and I play with both of my dogs. We play their favorite game. They're fetching, we're tugging, we're doing different things, but I make the backyard a ton of fun. Now, if you can't be in your backyard all the time, there are some toys that you can take back there, or that you can put back there, that are really fun for your dog. One of them that I'm thinking about is called the Jolly Ball. Now, there's 2 varieties of the Jolly Ball. There's a Jolly Ball that has a rope in it, and there's also a Jolly Ball that has a handle on it. These 2 toys, the Jolly Ball with the rope and the Jolly Ball with the handle, are fantastic toys for your very active dogs that are in the backyard. Now, what's number 2? Well, number 2 is, what type of fence do you have? If you have a 4-foot fence, do you have no fence? Do you have a 6-foot fence? Look, fencing really does matter. It's, you know, besides being fun in the backyard, you got to have some kind of fence to help your dog. These cyclone fences, a lot of times, it's not going to cut it. If you have a Doberman or a German Shepherd, Belgian Malinois, any of these really athletic breeds, those dogs can clear that fence, you know, without any kind of thought. So having a good sized fence up is going to really help your dog stay in the backyard, okay? Now, the third thing that you can do, besides making your backyard fun, besides having a nice high fence, is you can do one of these 2 things. You can have an invisible fence, or you can also install the rollers that go over the top of your fence. Let me go over the rollers first. What you essentially do here is you have a cable running across the top line of your fence. It's a pretty tight cable, and you have a PVC around that cable. So what happens is when the dog jumps up to try to climb over the fence, that PVC pipe will end up rolling. Now, if you have a really high fence and your dog gets up there, they could injure themselves. But this is one way that a lot of folks keep dogs in their yards, by putting this tension cable across the top of their fence with the PVC roller on the top. Now, for me, if I was going to do something like that, I would much rather do the invisible fence with the collar for my dog. I think that'll do a good job of keeping the dog contained in the yard. So number one, keep it fun in the backyard for your dog. Number two, have a high privacy fence, 6 to 8 feet. And then number three, if you absolutely have to, get the roller at the top of the fence and then also maybe install an electric fence or invisible fence in your backyard. Okay, what's next?
Okay. Well, next is how do I train my dog not to bark?
You know, this is a pretty common question that we get, and there's a lot of different strategies to teaching your dog not to bark. You know, you're going to hear advice from different trainers like bark collars. You're going to hear like, getting your, preoccupying your dog with something else. Well, I always like to ask this question when people want to get rid of a behavior that is just natural to the dog. Why is your dog barking? I think that's the first question that you need to ask yourself. If your dog is barking and it's nuisance barking, okay, they're asking you for something. They're trying to communicate to you that there's some kind of need that is not being met. Now, the next thing that you have to do as a responsible dog owner is ask yourself, well, hey, have I done my part today to make sure that the needs of my dog are being met? If the needs of your dog are not being met and you want to correct your dog for barking too much, then you shouldn't. You should get up and do something with your dog and help them to understand that, hey, we know that you're barking. We know that you have these needs. We're going to help meet these needs. Now, I'm going to help you here a little bit because I think this is important, okay? If you have nuisance barking going on, and your dog doesn't have its needs met, you're going to have to do something first to stop the barking, like put a leash on the dog, get them to do something, get them to calm down a little bit. Once they calm down, then go and meet that need. Because let's just say like they just want to play with you. If they start barking, you get up and go play, you're going to get more of that barking. But okay, you have to kind of be thinking ahead of your dog's day and be like, hey, we're going to play with you before you actually start barking with us. And I'll tell you, for any of these really active dogs, I think about Gabby, who's just laying right over here. Gabby, I will play with her 2 or 3 times a day and wear her out before she's going to become a pain in the ass. And I'll tell you this, if you don't play with her on a regular basis, she's kind of tough to live with. She's pretty calm right now, but I've already played with her twice, pretty hard before we did the show. So just think about that. If your dog is having a lot of nuisance barking, okay, don't immediately go to using, the bark collar or your remote collar. Maybe use some of your training like the play stay, or really kind of figure out, why is my dog barking? How can I get that need taken care of? And then in the future, you want to try to prevent your dog from barking by meeting their needs before that happens. Okay. All right. So what's next?
How long should a training session be for my puppy?
Okay, so this is a good question. And I think I want to generalize this, like how long should a training session be for a puppy or for an adult dog? So first I'll give you this, okay? For an adult dog, I think any time that the dog has to focus, a training session could be anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes, okay, if you're asking a dog to focus. Now, that's for a pretty athletic dog. If you're teaching something brand new, 5 to 10 minutes is probably a good amount of time. If you're teaching something brand new to a puppy that requires a lot of focus, I would say anywhere from maybe 5 minutes maximum. However, this is where I want to branch off into something, okay? If you're training coming when called or focused healing or something like that, then those are short training sessions because focus doesn't last all that long. In particular, if you're using food, the session shouldn't last all that long because the food's going to run out of value pretty quickly. If your dog's already kind of trained up, and you're using like a ball or a tug or a frisbee or any of these things, your dog's actually going to be able to play a lot longer because your dog's focus on toys tends to last much, much longer than their ability to consume food. Now, here's one other piece of information I think could be useful. If you're training your dog how to be like on a play stay the way that Gabby is, I think you could do that for any amount of time. And I don't just mean like, 5 minutes. I think you could sit down, watch my live show, watch a TV show, watch some videos on YouTube or on Facebook or, whatever you're doing for entertainment. And your dog should be able to passively stay on their bed, regardless if they're a puppy or if they're an adult dog. Now, puppy, a play stay, maybe about 30 minutes is probably a good amount of time, but it's not like for an adult dog, I could see like Gabby being in a play stay for an hour, hour and a half, okay? That doesn't mean you probably shouldn't release them, but I think that they could possibly, nail an hour and a half play stay. So just consider those things. Your training sessions don't need to be, like if it's focused, it does need to be shorter. Obviously, you can extend it with toys, but if you're going to be doing something passive like the play stay, then for sure those can be much, much longer in duration because your dog doesn't have to concentrate.
Okay. Next question is, how do I train 2 dogs at one time?
There's a lot of ways to do this. Let's take a look at it a couple of different ways. So way number one is like if you have both dogs out and you need to train both of them, get another family member involved. Okay, and I always encourage folks to get your kids, get your wife, get your husband, get your boyfriend, your girlfriend, get anybody involved in the household, to help you with the dogs. But then also for yourself, what should you do in those situations when you're trying to train 2 dogs? Well, don't make it too complicated for yourself. This is something that I'm learning, and maybe I can articulate this well, but don't give the thing you're trying to teach the dog too many rules. I'm constantly looking for simple ways to train our dogs and to train ourselves so that way, like, hey, you've got one rule. Like right now, like Gabby on her play stay, the one rule is you're not allowed to come off without permission. But the other rules are like the things that I'm doing to help the dog is that while you're there, we're making a lot of reward for you, and we're also making sure that that place that you're staying is very, very comfortable. So when you're trying to train 2 dogs, get 2 people involved. Now, let's kind of take it if you're by yourself. Let's just say that I'm an employee at a board and train center, and I'm going to be by myself for the next 3 hours, and I have 5 dogs to work. So I'm probably going to train 1 dog at a time to teach each individual dog, and then any dog that's already knows the skill and has a little bit of not necessarily mastery but some talent at that skill, then I will bring those dogs out. You'll see a lot of these videos, and you don't necessarily see them from me because we don't run a board and train facility, but you'll see a lot of places where they have board and trains, and they'll have 5 or 6 or 7 dogs out because all those dogs already understand something. Now when you watch that, generally what you're watching is the dogs all doing some kind of passive exercise. You're generally not going to see 2 dogs working at one time where like one dog, where like, 2 dogs are doing focused healing or 2 dogs are doing recalls at the same time. That's actually much, much harder. Now, one thing that I'll tell you that I absolutely love to do with 2 dogs is have one dog doing a passive exercise like a stay, having a family member managing that dog, and then another dog doing one of the active exercises like coming when called, focused healing, or even playing tug. And as you do that, that's a really great way to teach the dog that's doing the passive exercise that, hey, you have to stay while the other dog is having fun. And really, that's going to help you develop that on-off switch on your dog to where they know, like, hey, I have to be calm when they tell me to, even though other exciting things are happening. So, just kind of look at it that way. Get family involved, and then have one dog do something passive and one dog do something active. Okay, next.
All right. What are the differences in potty training an adult dog versus a puppy?
I don't think that there's much difference, when I think about it, but, I have been thinking about it here the past couple of days because I've been, my mind has kind of been on, am I going to get a puppy at the end of the year or at the beginning of next year? So the one difference that I see between potty training an adult dog and a puppy is the size of the dog's bladder. Obviously, the puppy's bladder is going to be much, much smaller, and so, when you put food and water, into your puppy, it's going to be 2 or 3 hours, or a shorter amount of time. And every dog is a little different, okay? But it's going to be a lot shorter. Where your adult dog, if you're trying to potty train an adult dog, well, it's going to take a lot longer for it to go through their digestive tract and, get to the bladder before they're going to need to empty. But as far as like the differences between training these dogs about what you want, that you need them to hold it, you want them to go outside in this particular area, that you need them to tell you when it's time for them to go, those things aren't really going to change. So, but if you have a brand new puppy right now, you should expect that you should be getting up every 2 to 3 hours to kind of see, where the puppy's at, taking it out. There's some really, I have this thought right now that I've seen kind of out there today, that maybe you are getting up every 2 or 3 hours to prevent it from ever happening. Like, I'm kind of big on making dogs hold it, but I think that there is some value. There is some value in maybe taking the dog out more often as opposed to making them hold it, because it is like, you do want to prevent mistakes. Every time that your dog pees inside their crate, or pees in the playpen, or pees in your home, they're actually going to get better at that because, well, using the restroom or pooping, it actually feels good. It's a form of reinforcement. So yeah, I think those are the main differences.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
next.
How do I get my dog to stop looking at other dogs?
Well, you're first going to have to be more interesting than the other dog, right? I think that's what it is. A lot of people think that maybe the answer here is to just go about punishing their dog for looking. And sure, yeah, like, if you're if you're walking, let's say you're walking with your husband, or you're walking with your wife, and your husband stares a little too long, well then, yeah, it's time to slap that dude. Well, maybe not, right? But hey, like, you can't look too long, okay? And getting in trouble is a part if your attention is somewhere else where it's not supposed to be. But I kind of look at that like, what's so good about looking at you, versus the other dog? So if your dog is not looking at you, and this is a habitual thing, then you really got to take a good look at yourself and ask yourself the question, hey, am I really all that interesting? So there's two things that you can do. Two things that you can do to really help yourself become more attractive to your dog. Start hand feeding the dog. Yes, wear a treat pouch on your body for a little while, a couple of weeks, maybe a month. But then the other thing is start developing a play relationship. I bust these toys out, and it wouldn't hurt for me to bust the toys out right now. I always love using this ball on a string. And a lot of my clients have said, like, yeah, we see you with these balls on a string, and then we go to the pet store and we can never find them. Well, the reality is that for whatever reason, pet stores don't sell a ball on a string, which is like, I think, like one of the greatest toys that you could have. Yeah, I really.
Do they sell the balls?
So yeah, they sell this. This is called the Everlasting Fun Ball. It's made by a company called Starmark, and I really like these balls. And actually, they have a really kind of nice scent to them, so that it doesn't smell like dog.
That's weird.
Isn't that kind of odd? So
Yeah,
they
it
have
smells
this,
fruity.
yeah. It has this really nice scent on there. So yeah, I haven't talked about this, but I'm going to do this. I'm going to take this opportunity right now. So look, if your dog isn't looking at you, is that what we're talking about?
Yeah.
If your dog isn't looking at you, you have to be a little bit more interesting than the other things in the environment. Well, duh, Al, I kind of know, right? Like, you got to be more interesting. Well, look, you got to hand feed your dog. You got to show your dog where you want them to be with you when you're moving together. But the other thing you got to do is you got to be fun, right? And so playing tug with your dog and playing fetch, and the dog thinking that this is even a possibility is great. So, if you have a puppy and you want to kind of have a really great play relationship, get you an Everlasting Fun Ball. Now, you can order them from us. We sure would appreciate it. But get yourself an Everlasting Fun Ball. And if you see right there, there's a cavity that you can put a whole bunch of different pieces of food and cheese and all sorts of different things in that cavity. As a matter of fact, like today when I unboxed a whole bunch of these, you could take scissors and kind of open this up to actually put some different kinds of things on there. So, yeah, sorry, we thought we were having kind of another issue again. Good
We'll
Lord.
see. Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll see. But like the Everlasting Fun Ball is really, Very, very good. It's a nice toy to be able to give your dog. It's pretty safe. I'm not going to say that it's indestructible, but I only give these to my dogs when I'm supervising them, and they really, really like them. Fritz and Gabby just
I'm gonna have to get a couple
absolute,
of those.
absolutely love. So
sure.
look, I want to show y'all something that I've been meaning. I've been meaning to show for some time because I kind of forgot about this. Hey, Allie, thanks for joining us tonight. We really appreciate you. So, with these, how do I put these together? So I'm gonna put one of these together because I think that could be useful for some of you guys. Maybe you bought one of these balls from us and it's come apart on you. So, I get a pretty good sized piece of rope. Okay, so my full arm length, and maybe that's not showing up on the video, but full arm length, right? And then all the way to my opposite shoulder. Okay, so I get that kind of piece of rope. Okay. So then what I do to make these is I end up stuffing the rope, through this cavity right there. Okay. Once I do that, here's the first thing that I do to put these together. I'm going to put this little loop right there so that way I can bring this piece of rope underneath there. So then what I do, and I have a little saying here, maybe you guys don't laugh at me, the rabbit comes out of the hole, around the tree, and back into the hole. I don't know what the name of that knot is, but that knot, the harder that your dog pulls against that knot, the tighter it goes, and it's very difficult, very, very difficult for it to, for them to break it. So then what I do is I just go up a few inches and then I put another one of those knots because it's going to give you a nice handle. So again, I've got that loop right there, and then I'm going to come in and come underneath there and then around the back of the rope and then back in there again. I'll probably shoot a video with a little bit clearer so you guys can get a clearer view. So then I do that. And so now you've got this really fantastic rope toy that you can throw, you can play a little bit of tug with, but dogs sure do love this. I'll tell you what, when I put this ball down on the ground and begin to flop it around, man, dogs sure do love chasing this, and we really play with a lot of puppies. I know I'll be playing with these balls with a puppy. If you're considering a working dog sport, these are probably pretty good for your puppies, but once your dog is done teething, you're going to want to get a harder ball because those working dogs will destroy these balls if you're developing their grip.
So it does help with teething? It is.
Yeah, I think so. I really does think that it helps with teething.
I'm thinking I have the puppy at home, and
these are really good. Like I
love
really like these. They come in 3 sizes. They come in a small. This is a medium. There's a large. I find that the medium works well, even for small dogs. Okay, but really, really nice toy. I think it's fantastic. We add the rope on there, but wonderful, wonderful toy to be able to play with. But
they can order those on your website?
Yeah, you can order them on the website. I think you can order them on the Facebook page and on the Instagram channel. I know that for sure. I think on the website it's on there. I'm not 100% sure. I've been thinking about updating the website for like a whole year now or something like that. But Mandy knows. But anyway, yeah, really fantastic toy. You can find this at local pet stores. I think you can order the balls on Amazon. But if you want it with the rope, this is you'll have to get that from us because I can't really find people that sell those.
Okay.
All right, yeah, let's go. Let's do one more. Let's do one more.
Okay.
Find one that you like.
Ugh. Well, how do you get a dog to take medicine? That's something that
A lot of people struggle with that one. And I read something today that people were like concealing it and the dog was like, I'm still going to spit it out. Mm-hmm. I thought about it. So yeah, I'm a little hesitant with this first thought. So what do you guys?
Here's what I have to say about it. So, number one, the pill pockets, the Greenie brand makes the pill pockets.
Are they good?
Oh my God. They're like, I have a dog my mom has a dog that will detect the pill in the whatever and she won't take it. It's a problem. But when she puts it in the pill pocket, she doesn't even care that there's a pill in there because it's just so good and it's so good. I use cream cheese because
And I've heard that before, that it's pretty good.
yeah, the pill pockets are kind of pricey. And
Yeah,
they
no,
get
they are,
expensive when you
they
have
are
a dog.
expensive. Yeah, they are expensive.
So I went to the cream cheese, and now, I mean, it's treats. I mean, it's like treat time.
So that's a new one that I've never heard. So cream cheese is one, and you said the greenies,
I
the
think
greenies.
Greenie, the brand that makes the
Yeah,
teeth.
yeah.
I think that's the brand. It's called Pill.
No, I've
Pockets.
seen them. I've seen them in some homes because we've used those as treats before in a training
so
session,
good.
and dogs really like those.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I mean,
like,
that's just.
some of the things that I've done is I've taken Hebrew National hot dogs, and then I've stuffed the pill inside, like you
Yeah.
just mash it in there and
That
then give
works
it to the
well.
dog. One thing that I've done, and this is kind of a trick, so I will. Okay, I just had another thought. So this is a little bit of trick with the dog. So I'll be throwing treats to them, and then I'll take the pill. So I'm tossing a treat, and the dog's like jumping up in the air and grabbing it. So I'm tossing treats, and then about the fifth or sixth treat, that's the one that actually has the pill inside of it.
Yeah.
And then I toss it. But then as soon as I toss it and they put it in their mouth, my hands go over the top of their mouth, and they end up swallowing it. So there is one other thing, but this is kind of an albatross. And so Bill Jack. So Bill Jack is a company that makes dog treats. Okay, and you can find those, at your, find those at all your local retailers. But there is a Bill Jack that's frozen Bill Jack, and you can only find it at some grocery stores. So the frozen Bill Jack, you bring it home, you put it in your refrigerator, and it thaws out. And so then the really cool thing is that the Bill Jack, you can form it to any size, shape, dimension that you want, because you kind of roll it up. So then what you do with it is you take the pill and you roll it up inside of the Bill Jack ball, and it's almost impossible for the dog to detect it in there. And so, like, sometimes I could be throwing a Bill Jack single pellet of the thawed out frozen food, and then I can have a little bit bigger ball that actually has the pill in there. Give that to my dog. But at the end of the day, if your dog is having to take that stuff, and they're rejecting it, then it's just time to open their mouth and go back to the back. And I've done this before even with my dogs. I've done that, like, hey, you're going to take this pill right now. But
Right, because if you just put it in the back of their throat, it has to go down. So
yes,
yeah, that's what you got to do if you can't trick them.
So, okay, so Allie, I see that you had a question. So how do you get your dog to stop biting? Well, Allie, are you talking about a puppy? Or are you talking about an adult dog? Because really, if you're talking about a puppy that's less than 6.5 months of age, then the answer is you don't get them to stop biting. They're going to keep biting because they're looking to play.
I feel your pain, by the way.
Yeah, like puppies bite. Puppies bite, and I talk about this all the time. I talk about my puppy uniform, and I'll definitely, I'm wearing the puppy uniform on my T-shirt right here. I wear a hoodie that covers my hands, but I also, like, when I teach a puppy about its biting, I have one of these balls. So yeah, I've got the ball with me. I also have a leash on the dog. When a dog is biting, it's a game. And think of it like football. If the dog is playing and biting and it's a game, if it's football and you hit the quarterback after they've released the ball, you make physical contact, it's a 15-yard penalty. So if you're playing a game with the ball and the dog's chasing after it and then they bite you, use your leash to discipline your dog. How hard should you use your leash? Well, it just really kind of depends on the dog. Some dogs just need a dirty look. Some dogs need a little bit firmer pressure. Some dogs need a lot more. But, you kind of figure it out in the context of the game that's saying, like, hey, we're going to put a boundary. Now, anybody that says that you shouldn't discipline your dog, well, your dog is exploring, using its mouth, jumping on you to say, when is somebody going to tell me how far I can go? And so limits, using a little bit of pressure from your leash is a good way to establish where those boundaries are for your dog. It was really interesting. I got to work a couple of dogs over the weekend, and I had taught this first dog that when you get on your bed, that it's really very rewarding, and we're going to pet you. And I've got some video on that maybe we'll be putting out this week. And then I had another dog, well, and the same dog got it into a down, and I showed it that it was amazing. Then I threw some food over the edge of the bed. The dog stepped off, and I literally didn't touch the dog any harder than that. And that's all it took to tell that puppy not to come off the bed. And then we would just went right back to rewarding. And then the second dog came out, and I probably put that dog back on the bed 7 times. And it took that dog longer to figure out that, hey, I couldn't do it. So every dog's going to be a little bit different to learn where the boundaries are. But man, your leash can really be very valuable there.
I'll remember that. Next time I'm sitting on my hands trying to...
Yeah, just put a leash there. And so this goes back to something I teach to all my clients, but I'll say it now. When you're using your leash, there's a very simple way that each and every one of us needs to understand about how a leash works. And I call it the principle of pressure. And the principle of pressure is this. You should turn pressure on. The dog should do the thing that you've imagined in your head that you want them to do. And then after they've 100% done that, then the pressure comes off. This is by definition called negative reinforcement. It is very powerful. Negative feedback mechanisms are very, very strong in a lot of different animals, particularly your dog, also in humans. And so when you do that, that actually is a really good way to begin to establish where the boundaries are, because your dog is feeling and it can feel that. Obviously, if you're at the grocery store and somebody comes into your personal space, you can feel the pressure coming off of their presence. And so your dog can feel your presence, can feel the leash, and those things, and that leash pressure can really give a lot of very useful information to the dog. I'm not saying that don't give your dog treats and food. On the contrary, I think you should give a lot of that. But I think there should be you should really show the dog a nice delta, or there's a big difference between where the boundary starts and where you really should be habitating and what you should be doing, because that's a great way to train behaviors. So anyway, I think that's really important to learn how to use the leash well. It makes a big difference in leash walking and coming when called, and in teaching your dog to stay. All right. Well, I don't have anything else. Do you got anything? Well, guys. Hey, thanks so much for watching. We really appreciate each and every one of y'all. If you enjoyed any of our content, if it brought you any value, please be sure to subscribe. Hit the notification bell so that way next time you'll know when we go live. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye.